All right, we're back live from the 2015 NSCA Conference here in Orlando, Florida. My name is David Harris. I'm with Strength Performance Network. We have a great opportunity to talk with Dan Schaefer, who's the Director of Strength and Conditioning at Florida State University. Dan and I actually met quite a few years ago, thanks to John Jost, who was a former Director of Strength and Conditioning at Florida State. And I've gotten to know Dan pretty well over the years, and it's a great opportunity to talk to Dan. It's my first time catching up with him since you've kind of got the new role of Director in Strength and Conditioning, so congratulations on that, very well deserved. But I thought we'd just start out by letting some of our viewers understand your background, how you got started, and arrived at the position that you are today at Florida State.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess my path kind of started, as most people do. I started as an intern at Florida State, and along that process, Coach Jost did a really good job of enabling me to do some of the things that I do best, which happens to be technology integration, along with athletes and how they use it and how they respond. At that time, really not a whole lot was out yet. So what his project was the seminal way, which was how do we put together a way that we communicate to the athletes that they all understand, and all the coaches are using the same verbiage. That ended up evolving into what eventually became called the Super Beast, which was the way that we digitally publish all of our programs to our athletes. So that's kind of where it started, and that was through my internship and graduate school process. Along the way, I got hired on full-time with track and field and cross country. And then through that, kind of growing and developing more technologies into the weight room, when Coach Jost stepped down from the position, I applied and interviewed and really set my focal point on how do we reach out to kids that the only way that they know how to communicate is through their thumbs, through their phones, through technology. And so that was kind of where the field is heading, where Florida State wanted to head. And so bridging between me moving from the assistant position to the director job was really, really good and smooth, and all the coaches kind of bought on board and helped carry out that vision.
Yeah, I mean, you have a really interesting profile because you know strength and conditioning really well, but you really have this analytical mindset and the ability to kind of translate what's needed for within the strength and conditioning industry into that software and development piece. And not only do you understand that, but you actually built the Super Beast from scratch. And I know you spent some time looking at what's out there today in terms of third-party vendors that have softwares that might help. What are some of the things that you focused on when you built Super Beast that you weren't able to find in some of those other software programs?
Yeah, so the biggest thing for all of us was it had to be easier than what we were already doing. Okay, so it's pretty easy to write out a program or make a quick Excel sheet or something like that. So the process had to be automated, and it also had to be in a way that we all think and program and periodize, right? So what was really awesome is that as an intern, I had the experience of working with several Olympic staff, strength conditioning coaches, as well as our football staff as well. And we kind of took all the ideas and concepts from things that they like in terms of how do we incorporate our mobility, our core workout, our assistance exercises, how do we program long-term, and how do we make clicks of a button so that we can change our training loads that go along with a season. So for the most part, you do the same exercises over and over, right? You're gonna have power cleans, you're gonna have squats, you're gonna have bench press, but how do you make it simple so that you can lay out 52 weeks of training and make it really simple to publish and edit, and you don't have to spend more time kind of creating these programs. So from that process, kind of working backwards into what does 1 week look like, and then how do I make that repeatable over a full year, is kind of how the program was born.
And I know when we caught up on this, I believe at the last NSCA conference, you were kind of showing me how the Super Beast works a little bit. You really wanted it to be very similar to kind of that Excel-based program at the time, and I believe the reason then was that that's what coaches have been using for so long, and so to make a dramatic shift from what is an Excel-based or appears to be an Excel-based system to something that's completely different could be a challenge to some coaches.
Right, and so the last time we spoke, you saw basically the Excel-based version that we published into either a web-based font or a PDF font, some way that we could digitally publish to all the iPads and iPhones, and the way that we send it out to our athletes. Since that time, I've made NoelStrong.com, and that's been kind of not only our way to highlight our weight room and our coaches and some of the things we do, but also that's where we start pushing some of the things through. So since then, we've kind of come up with some monitoring apps, some ways to kind of handle our data, just because using something web-based is a lot more powerful. And I'm sure we've all had the pitfalls of having an Excel file crash on us and just wanting to put your head through a wall. So that's kind of been the way that we've been going through it. And really the next step is bringing all of the different technologies that we use and all the different monitoring things and the way we publish our programs into kind of one unified approach into how we tackle the student athlete and making their experience better than anyone else's.
So what have been some of the benefits in the athlete's eyes for some of the technologies you've been bringing on board?
Yeah, I think the biggest benefit is probably it diminishes the learning curve. We talk about how did that feel, give it a number, kind of all that stuff. And when they get in the routine of doing this over and over, and it's super simple, the kids pull up an app on their phone and they be like, I slept good, I didn't sleep good, I had a test, and they can kind of put all these comments. They start to understand that how this affects their training and how to be vocal about when they need to take rest and when they can push it, and not just sort of the oh, I'm tired, I need to get out of practice. So we get to put a really good measurement to how we're performing as well as how they feel. So that's been really receptive. And then in the weight room, adding the program, they really love it because they can have it on their phones, they can type it in the iPads that we have at every rack. And now currently we use GymAware to look at the bar speed. And so it's teaching them not only how they should be moving, but why they should be moving that way for the time of season.
So where have you decided to integrate third-party applications like GymAware with what you do homegrown? Because I know you're a big proponent because you have the capability to build stuff yourself. So where have you seen the value of bringing in a third party like GymAware?
Yeah, so the value in the third party is definitely the hardware aspect that you kind of, I don't know, I'm not an engineer, so to speak, right? So definitely shopping around and looking at a lot of different places and finding out not only one that gives us really critical data that allows us to say, are we doing our job correctly? So that's kind of first and foremost. Does the hardware that we decide to use make sure that we're accountable, as well as is it going to make our athletes better? And then second of all, does it kind of fit our overall philosophy? Does it give us the data and the feedback that makes us as a strength conditioning department better?
So where are you now in terms of, so you're still using the homegrown system you built,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then how are you using the input that GymAware provides? And are you using it with all of the teams you're working with, focusing on one particular team?
So we started, when I got the position 3 years ago with track and field, we started with tendos. We had some of those and just kind of started looking at things, and I started to notice some trends as people started to run faster. From there, we bought 2 GymAware units to kind of try those out, and it gave us better information about the athlete. And to the point of where now we have enough that we can handle a whole team at once, which has been really beneficial. So obviously we use it with track and field a lot. We started to use it with softball, our men's and women's tennis teams, and it's one of those things where there isn't a whole lot of data, and there are some general recommendations out right now. And what we're looking to do is figure out kind of the key variables that we need to focus on that fit our philosophy in order to help our athletes understand how to train and how to perform better in season. Because I think one of the scary things of strength conditioning, at least in the collegiate setting, is how can we push it correctly in season and improve performance, but kind of reduce injury, reduce training stress, not make them sore. And looking at this data in terms of how to move correctly has helped us be really effective at that.
So how do you take, you start to I guess leverage the technology within your programs, but when you're dealing with a college athlete, you don't always get those athletes there all year round. A lot of them nowadays are staying around during the summer, but there are often times when people will leave and have to work out at home, and now they're not able to use this type of technology in their training. So how do you, I guess, adjust your philosophy when it comes to in-season training or on-campus training versus dealing with the athlete when they don't have the capability to utilize the technology?
Yeah, so what's really nice is when we first get an athlete, and I don't know, let's just take the bar for example. When they move a bar, they can see how fast they move it, and then we can show them throughout their career how they start moving more weight, heavier weight, faster than they moved that bar when they first came through the door. With that, it allows us to teach them how to move faster, how to move properly, and those kind of things become innate. How to move faster down or move faster up or spend more time in the bottom. When we start to teach them those things, we can move away the hardware, whether it be in season or whether they go home, and we can put little notes in the program that's published to them, like make sure you go down fast, or make sure you control on the way down and go up fast. And so these things are taught and they're learned. And although they don't get the extra feedback that is provided from the GymAware app, they still understand the process of training and why, when the weight gets heavier, you're going to move a little bit slower, and why these things happen and why they're important. So, it helps us teach them how to fish instead of giving them the fish.
What made GymAware unique when you were out there looking? Because I know you do some pretty detailed analysis when you're looking at who you want to partner with. What made GymAware unique in terms of being willing to pull the trigger and partner with them?
Yeah, it was 2 things. One, definitely they have a very robust app, which is kind of cool. And from an athlete standpoint, you want training to be cool, right? So they had an app that gave us a lot of feedback, not only that the athletes wanted to use, but as well as showed them immediately after they got done with the set whether or not it was a good or a bad set or what we needed to fix for the next one. So that was important because we do a lot of auto-regulating within a session, within a week, within their plan. So that was really important to make sure that we got critical data right away that echoed kind of what we were saying. So if we were telling them that it was slow, the Gym Aware app told them it was slow. You know what I mean? So
there's action there.
Yeah, I'm not just saying things. Right. I'm sorry. Well, and the second part of the question was
just with the athletes themselves. So when you're, how are you incorporating that into what they're doing or within your program themselves?
Right. Okay. So then the other best part was when you go into the portal afterwards and you kind of review the data. I guess some of the more detailed analytics side of things, the graphs and the ability to kind of manipulate the data in terms of being able to show bar position with force or mean velocity with position, some of the things that are really critical to help a person perform better. Their portal made it really easy, especially for the coach. That's information that you don't usually explain to an athlete on the floor. Like, you don't tell them about their force profile while they're squatting, right? That'd be ridiculous. But it helped us kind of understand, where they were at their development in terms of, getting stronger, getting more explosive, and then also when it's time to change the program. And some of the things that we found is, when we do a general strength phase or a max power phase or something like that, if they're responding really well to the training, they don't need to stay there. So we just kind of move them on to the next step and get them to where they need to be so they compete more effectively in season.
And what other technologies are you starting to utilize as well? I mean, this is primarily used within the weight room.
Yep.
When you take an athlete outside and work more on the conditioning or the athletic performance side of things, are there other technologies you're starting to leverage as well?
Yeah, so the other technologies that we use a lot, the Polar system, we use that with a couple teams in terms of heart rate monitoring and looking at those aspects. We use StatSport, which is the GPS component that we use with our women's soccer team, and our football team uses Catapult.
And do you see a day when all of this kind of input ends up going into one athletic profile for the athlete? So I'm Dan, and everything I've done in the weight room, performance-wise, is mirrored with or tied together with everything that's happening outside of the weight room?
Yeah, where we're moving to is right now, myself and the director of sport nutrition, the director of sport medicine, we're trying to get just this complete athletic profile. You come in day one, this is what you look like, and we have a prototype of what the perfect women's soccer player, perfect football D-back, what this person looks like, so they know the milestones that they need to achieve throughout their college career to make sure that they're on path to be both successful and college and professionally if they'd like to move on. So we're looking at how we integrate all of these things, and so right now we are creating a full athlete dashboard in terms of movement efficiency, kind of talent ID, so how explosive you are for your body type right now, your energy system development, and then also taking that data and then transforming it into what your weight room schedule looks like. So obviously if there is someone who displays a lot of high talent ID markers and they're extremely explosive, then we start looking at variances between different jumps to make sure maybe they need more plyometrics than strength work, or maybe they don't have a very great vertical, so we need to focus on some strength training with a combination of plyometrics. Kind of how that all fits into not only their calendar but also their sport calendar and the time of season.
Sure. So I got to imagine as you're getting more of this data, it benefits you as a coach, but are you also finding that it helps to encourage some competition, healthy competition among the team and individuals themselves as they kind of compare their output to others?
Yeah, so kind of taking all this complex stuff, we try to make it green, yellow, red, and then we try to use shapes, so like small shape, big shape, and no one wants to be a tiny shape and no one wants to be red because that means you got worse, right? So it kind of puts it in, everyone wants to be the best in their sport, so they want to expand their profile and be a bigger shape, and then also everyone wants to keep improving. So the last thing you really want to see is that your score go from green to red, because that means it kind of took a step backwards. So both competitiveness in the team to get the best score, as well as with themselves to keep improving.
Dan, thanks. It was a pleasure talking to you. I appreciate your time. We'll spend a little bit more time together off camera here, but hey guys, we'll be back online live with we're actually going to talk to Jim Aware here in a few minutes and catch up with another few strength coaches here in a little while. So thanks for your time. We'll be back on live soon.